Jimmy, who's that guy that's got the lake over there? It's Falconry. She's gonna let her up here showing pictures.
Oh, Lewandowski?
I bet he's got more of a lake down there after that rain. I didn't have water in my yard after that, and that don't happen.
That's ridiculous.
I don't have to go to the Frio River anymore. I'll just go over there and float his backyard.
They found hidden mine on hidden mine. That's in phase 2, it's up there on that corner.
Yeah.
I just got to get right to fix my driveway. I've never had, I cleaned out my capital maybe every 4 or 5 years.
You want me to order some?
And
Yeah, we'll have to this job.
just that one rain filled it up. It's 3 foot deep. Yeah, no, it's 3 foot. The whole cut is concrete. It's 3 foot empty, and I cleaned it out completely in that line. That's 80 train we got. Filled it completely. My bid was $18,250 to fix my driveway. 110 tons of rock we brought back in.
10 times.
I filled up my cattle guard and gravel half a Pioneer Lane for about 100 yards.
Rock.
That's right. They haven't had him called in a long time, still.
I even got at the lake house in Chico, I had,
Hey, how are you?
it's 72 ton roll.
Okay.
Had a tire front yard. So yeah, I can go out there.
That's everything, all the way down to Blackburn. And then,
So Susan, you can't get a hold of Susan, is that the problem?
Well, she called and left me a message and said, hey, David. And I said, I'm not David, but that's the message that she left me and said, the shirts are this. She never did respond to any of my emails I sent her, just a quote and stuff. So it was just really weird. And she called, left a message and said she was David, and then I told her right back.
I have her working on a couple different projects, she may have gotten mixed up.
Yeah, she must have, because I thought, David, who's David?
It's okay. I'll knock on her door tonight.
Yeah, I tried to call her, but her voicemail says that she's not able to take messages because her voicemail's not set up.
Yeah, she's my, one of my.
I'm assuming it was me, but I'm just.
Yeah.
2011, when that ordinances were adopted.
Right? I want to call it. Maybe we all need to get a copy, so we all are using the same one.
Those citizens talk on the budget tonight?
we didn't raise it, so.
Yeah, public here.
Yeah, I talked to, I was at Jack Braxton's house,
What's good there?
so I'm doing an event up there. His house in November.
Him and his wife Kim?
Yeah, they're right last week.
You probably see different working for them, but, they 18, 20 years, something.
Yeah, they're very nice people.
They were real good working until they turned it over to their son's.
Oh, no. Yeah, he said he was there. There you go. You're my man. I was now going stuff there. You're driving around his property. Driving around the neighborhood. And he said something about John Deere. I was like, John Deere. You know John Taylor? Yeah,
He still had that house right on the right as you go into that. Maybe
yeah, 4 acres. Yeah. So they just moved into that 7 or 8 years ago, because he used to live down in that development.
that's the third house he's on in that development.
Oh, and he showed me the house he's in from.
Yeah, I don't know what to do with it, just say that. Yeah.
Well, they did anything, they'll do it all.
It's a long ways from McKinney to here at 5:30.
Yes.
I'm stopped by the house and take a shower there.
Yes. What time do we get?
Yeah, that house belonged to a car dealer. Long. Was in there.
A car dealer, the bottom.
What's the name? I don't remember that. A long Chrysler.
You're long, it is.
Yes.
He's got two separate driveways.
Yes.
And then he's got the area behind the house. They just put in a concrete road to the basketball court.
So, you can't have it. You got that house because we did. You can't have it like their secretary when your brother-in-law is successful. That's what. You pretty much lose everything. When her daddy's the one who put you in the car business to start.
Our team's here.
Coming up.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But he's the one who wrote it up. He's
Take it where the wrong way.
Yeah.
agreements.
He started there in high school.
12 months. I gave it to John.
Working. End up married on her daughter, took over.
What is that?
Well, I'm gonna do it.
Situations like that, you lose more than
I remember we were a kid long time.
Wow.
It sounds like we probably looked pretty there.
just felt hurt.
Both guys.
Yeah, it's a little rich, but it's okay. We won't tell him. We won't tell him. He probably think he's very good.
We can just leave it as is. and have those in there.
Or just flip the coin?
Yes.
JR West. That's more Jefferson.
What are you doing?
Good, how are you?
Good.
Thought about you yesterday.
What did I do?
I was playing golf. Actually, our guy.
I said, did you spend most of your time in the sand traps? Because that's where I spend my time.
That's not my game.
No, that's mine. Where were you at? Oh, okay. I played that once.
Once? You lived in Denver, just played it once?
Yeah. Hey, they worked me to death up there. I didn't have time to go play golf. But I remember it was a nice course. I had fun.
When did you play it? How long?
Who was freshman?
So they have a new 9 out there. There's 3 nines.
Oh, really? Well, see, there were only 2 when I was there.
Yeah.
What's up with third one?
Just before COVID, like 19. Yeah,
Sorry.
Sunday open. Yeah,
Okay, no, that's.
It's a good track.
2011?
it's much different than the first 2. Oh, this is honor guard? Should we stand up right now?
Can you put that?
We haven't brought it in Tracy.
Yeah, did we take anybody's picture?
That's a flag.
Take it back out.
Did we get any of y'all to let us take your picture for the What side?
Not
I
nice
sent Brooke.
to take pictures.
Hey, Stephen, how are you? Good, thank you.
Steven.
Sit down.
Yeah, you do.
Patty, I'm hanging in there. Been on that new warehouse y'all building out there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Warehouse and, mail center.
I'm going. John, good to see you.
Yeah.
Here.
No, did you want to?
I'll just wait. Okay, now we're cool.
That's a good move. Bring that table up here.
Well, I see they're having trouble hearing you guys, so we're gonna try something different, see if this works. I asked if they'd let me move to the back, but they wouldn't let me do that. So our keys are not on.
I accidentally turned that one off. The one behind you's on.
And I'll be able to
Because of
cast,
baseball players in the line, I didn't touch metal ones. Those boys had it all the time.
They run off the same remote, so when I had to make sure it's not gonna turn on.
Turn it on, turn it on.
I worked on tugboat about 3 years. And I worked $6 on, $6 off, $6 on, $6 off. And most of them drink coffee, and I still can't drink.
Yeah, drink coffee.
So I started doing this.
and so broken by cast. It still says office
I
TV.
broke my leg in
Yes, it's one of those that make sure.
78, pulling calf.
Yeah, I think,
My friend come pick me up to eat it. He thought it was funny to give me a little bit.
It's
Make
got-
the stick go up. That's where he get
Okay.
sick, go with it.
Yes.
That bad.
And that started my addiction. I quit for about 12 years.
What did you? Oh,
Oh, that's a good. Yeah.
Yeah, I tried it all.
I got in trouble. Total.
That's
Back in here. Sure.
Clint Eastwood spitting on his dog. Get ready, son's behind his back.
I just picked up, President Bush's line. Where everything at his library and cafe.
Good deal.
That down, College Station.
Right here.
Oh, SMU. All right. The block time set, so with that, we'll get started on our city council meeting for Tuesday, September 6, 2022. This time we'll have a roll call.
Harvey Burton,
John Cassette.
Walter Clemens, Stephen King, John Taylor,
Jimmy Royston.
all present, we have a quorum. Yeah, Michelle, what is this? Pledge of allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Texas
flag, honorable and Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to you, Texas, one state, under God, one indivisible.
So at this time, we will open public comment. Everybody,
I've never seen any.
Mary, you got your time?
7:01. No,
We don't have any public comment there.
okay, so we'll move to consent agenda.
Mayor, the staff would like to pull consent agenda item 4B, the financial report. It was not part of your packet, and we were trying to get it to you today, but we're still having some problems with the software. So we will bring that to the next meeting if you don't mind.
Okay.
With the full agenda item 4B.
Consent agenda, all matters as consent agenda are considered to be routine by the city council and will be enacted by one motion. An item can be removed from the consent agenda by the city administrator, mayor, or any member of the city council and will be considered after approval of the consent agenda. So we'll move to 4A, approve the city council meeting minutes for August 1st, 15th, and 29th.
I make a motion that we encourage the city council to meetings for August 1st, 15th.
We have a motion, we have a second.
Second.
Motion and second, did all those in favor say aye?
Aye.
Those opposed? That's unanimous. So with that, we'll move into new business. We'll conduct a public hearing on the proposed tax rate for the 2022 tax year, fiscal year 22-23. So with that, we'll
Yes, sir. I'm going to invite Michelle Saunders, our contract finance director, to give the presentation. Before she gets up, though, I do want to remind council that the state law, truth and taxation, requires one public hearing before implementing a tax rate if the rate is going to be considered, which will exceed the lower of the no new revenue rate or the voter approved rate. And the rate that we're proposing is higher than the no new revenue rate, but it is right at the voter approved rate. That's why we're having the public hearing this evening. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Michelle, and then when she's done, Mayor, we can open up the public hearing. In the meantime, Michelle, we see if I can find a slide. Okay.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So like City Manager was saying, this is another box that we have to check on the required state laws to adopt your budget and your tax rate. Proposed tax rate for next fiscal year is 26 cents, which is lower than your current tax rate, which is currently set at 30 cents. As a reminder, your tax rate is built on two components. Your maintenance and operation rate, which is how you pay your day-to-day expenses, salaries, travel and training, anything like that. And then your INS rate, which is how you pay your debt. Since the city of New Fairview issued debt 2 fiscal years ago, you're now obligated to pay that debt back. That's why you guys have not seen an INS rate before, but now that you have debt, you do. So that's now a component of your tax rate. So when you add those together, you get the 26 cents proposed tax rate for next fiscal year. Up on the screen, you'll see a comparison of like cities in your area and their proposed tax rates for next fiscal year. So you'll see the city of New Fairview's rate is still much lower than a lot of the city rates in this area, 26 cents. I'll stand for any questions. Otherwise, we open up the public hearing for public comment.
I have a question.
Well, it's the same one.
Yeah, so this is obviously a typo. In here it says 21 cents.
The one.
No, so
It is 21.
the saying the maintenance and operation rate is 21 cents. The property tax rate is 26 cents.
So
You have to add them together. So when you add the 21 cents and the 0.04 cents together, you get 26
Well, I'm
cents.
talking about in our agenda minutes memo. It says the proposed
Oh, I'm
tax
sorry.
rate of 21.
I don't have the agenda memo in front of me. I'm
Okay.
sorry. But if it does say that, yes, that is a typo.
Ours
It's
says
216384.
One
Should be 2613.
So it should be two. I got my numbers mixed up, I think.
Yeah, so you get your number 6.
Yes, that is not correct.
3261.
Sorry, your agenda memo
Because
is
that includes
incorrect.
the INS and the M and O.
I figured that.
Yeah.
That's my typo on the agenda sheet.
That was good. So,
Sorry, I was going off the third, fifth page of the budget book is what I was going off of. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's correct. It's correct in your budget book.
And what was posted in the newspaper is correct.
Just making sure that.
Nope, it's 26 cents.
Any questions for staff? If not, we're done and the council can, I can open up flow here. Oh, it looks like Harvey's got one there.
yes,
Is the 19 cents and the 26 cents the only two tax rates that we're considering?
So they're the two tax rates that are calculated for you based on what is needed. So the 19 cents is considered is the no new revenue rate. So it's calculated based on any properties that were on your tax roll the previous fiscal year. It's that rate that would generate the same amount of revenue for those properties that were on your tax rate the previous fiscal year. Is it 19 cents? The 26 cents that we're proposing is an increase from that. It's like 3.5% on top of what properties were at the previous fiscal year plus new properties. But those are the two rates that are calculated for you by Wise County. So I keep forgetting we're not in Denton County.
So the 26 cents is people are going to pay more money out of their pocket.
That is correct. Even though the tax rate is going down because your appraisal, the evaluations of the tax rate is going down. That's correct.
And the 26 cents,
Money around within different funds, like general fund and other funds, or you're drawing down money from the fund balance to compensate for something in your general fund, typically, or it could be your other funds, depending on how you want to do it. But the tax rate, once it's set, the tax rate is set for the year. So if you need more money, you draw money down from your fund balance, but you do not affect your tax rate anymore. Does that make sense? Once you set the tax rate next week, to adopt what the tax rate is, that's the amount that people are gonna be taxed. And if down the year, in that fiscal year, it turns out we need more money for something, and we amend the budget, that's on us. The taxpayer does not give us a higher tax rate at that point.
right, no, I understand that. We're increasing the East Fire agreement, we're increasing public safety pay. I mean, there are increases in this budget based on the 26 cents.
Right.
If it was 25 cents and take those increases down, would that be something the citizens would appreciate more?
That's for you as a council to decide. If you set the tax rate, and say the tax rate is what affects the budget, so that's what these discussions have been, that we've been having, is for you to tell me what you think the priorities are for this community and what money you think we need to obligate towards those priorities.
Doing some rough math in my head, I can tell you if you want to go with a 19-cent tax rate, we probably have to cut about $170,000 out of the proposed budget. So if you wanted to see what the difference was between a 19-cent tax rate and a 26-cent tax rate, what each cent increase would get us as far as the ability to produce revenues, I could do that math for you roughly, but I can tell you 19 cents, the no new revenue rate would be about $170,000 you need to cut out of expenses. So if you want to drop it a cent, it's probably like $22,000, $25,000. So you'd have to cut out of expenses. If you wanted to do that math, I can do it for you, but it'd be about that. Yeah.
I think something to think about, or something I'm thinking about now. We're gonna pass this added money on to the citizens, they're gonna have to pay for it. And we're increasing the budget in some areas here that may or may not be necessary. There's something that I think needs to take a close look at. We got till next week or what have you, but I'm not proposing a tax rate at this moment. I'm just making sure that I understand the tax rate. I mean, if we go up to 29 cents, it's still cheaper than 30 cents, and then we got more money to.
Well, legally, you cannot go up to 29 cents. Legally, the highest we can go is 26 cents.
Right, yeah, right now, because that's the way we posted it and gave notice, so we can't go any higher than what we posted, and based on my conversations with the council, we were okay with the voter approved rate, which is the 26 cents, so we can't go any higher. You can go lower if you want, but if you're gonna go lower, I would appreciate you telling me what that amount is tonight, because we've got a week to scramble it and do some recalculations to figure out what we're gonna spend out of the budget to bring you back the rate that you want, if it's not this.
Me, by myself, I'm not gonna be able to change anything. I'm bringing it up to the light, to the record for discussion.
Absolutely.
Everybody's happy with 26 cents, then we'll go 26 cents.
Right, and that's exactly what this is for, this public hearing, for not just the council to discuss, but for you as the council to hear from the residents on this proposed tax.
Yeah, we were gonna do that, it should have been last week.
Should have been.
I'd like to know what that number is too, the difference between the 0.19 and 0.26.
Oh, it's about $170,000. If you look at page 5, it talks about the additional revenue that's generated based on property taxes. If you take that number and minus out new property taxes out of the property tax roll, be minus 70,000 out of 130,000. Oh, sorry, it's 160-ish thousand. That would have to cut out in
I
expenses.
think last
My
week
bad.
I calculated
Sorry, got
152,000.
Yeah. Some rough math in my head.
So you'd be taking take the 68 from the 230 now.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Because that's new property taxes added to your property tax rolls, so you get that money regardless.
And what's the discussion piece?
So we need to open the public hearing for anyone for public comment, and then we'll close it, and then we'll have to open the public hearing for discussion on the budget. So if y'all want,
Do the next one.
which is the next item.
So the council will discuss next.
Well, we have to have the mayor open up, if you have no more questions of staff, we'll have the mayor open up the public hearing to see if there's any comments from citizens on the proposed tax rate. And then once we're done with the comments, we close the public hearing, and then council can have whatever discussion you want to have, and then the direction you want to give me, you can give it to me at that time. Otherwise, then we go to the next item, which is the actual budget that we have here. And so we'll have a public hearing on the budget as well. So I'll talk to you guys about some of the changes I made in the budget based on our discussion from last time. And then the public hearing will be for you guys to hear from any residents that may want to give comments on the proposed budget. And again, when we close the public hearing, council can deliver it, and then you can tell me again if you want any further changes. But we're trying to refine this to get it ready for the actual adoption next week on the 12th. That makes sense? Okay. So any more questions of staff regarding the proposed tax rate?
No question.
Then, thank you, Michelle. And Mayor, if you can open up the public hearing, sir.
At this time, we'll open the public hearing for the public hearing for the proposed tax rate for the 2022 tax year, for fiscal year 22-23. Do we have anybody here tonight to speak, ask questions? Richard, can you come over, state your name and address, please, sir?
Richard Grady from Montefiore House. I guess my question is, what Harvey was asking about the tax rate. I think it's pretty negligible, the difference between what the increase is in the difference as far as residents. as far as the increase from last year and this year, and especially because we are getting more road work done, especially with what's in the budget, by buying equipment, I mean, especially my neighborhood. I mean, we need maintenance. For really complete reconstruction, we need maintenance work. If we're going to stay in the streets. Because every day that we don't do anything, the streets are getting worse.
Is that Rio Rancho?
Yeah. So, I mean, there's just work that we've done, and Josh has already done a couple of things in there, so. I think what's in the budget, as far as that, is stuff that we need. And, you know, it's work a couple extra hours. Plus, for the other part, which is really good, I think, so, we had maintenance there. Things, you know, as far as the taxpayer, I feel like I'm getting something for what I see for the increase.
So can I ask him a question?
Sure.
Mr. Frame, I'm the one who suggested we put in the extra money towards public safety, in terms of just the overall public safety budget. What are your thoughts there about public safety increasing that budget?
Yeah, I mean, hey, they need equipment needs to get more expensive.
Well,
I
here's the
talked to
thing.
the fire chief today, you know, they're just talking about how much more October 1, how much more bunker equipment's going to be next year than what it is this year. So he's trying, for another department, he's trying to just order in before October 1, so they can get that equipment. The costs are going up. I mean, you know, standing on the side of the road, you know, to get donations, you know, is just not going to cover those additional costs.
The whole council agreed that, 10% increase for public safety is a good idea. But we didn't think where that money was to be coming from. It's coming from out of the public works budget, so less money for working roads. Is that?
That's not entirely accurate.
Oh, it's not.
Based on our discussion, I also increased our projected revenue from sales tax.
Oh, good.
So a big chunk of that's actually coming from that
Good.
anticipated
Okay.
revenue.
I'm glad
And
you're
in fact, we were able to make some other cuts elsewhere, that had more money in the public works. And I want to talk about that when we do the next.
Good.
agenda item.
That's my only concern.
Right.
Good.
Michelle, can you tell me what page your public safety budget's on?
Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Brady.
Page 29.
29. Thank the fire department for being here tonight. Thank you, gentlemen and ladies. To clean out laundry gear is $10,000, $9,500. The machine, installing it, all that stuff is $9,500. And so when I proposed the 10% increase, that was my first thought, is our firemen are gonna have clean uniforms, get the chemicals off, then get you in the break on your gear, it smells right, get all the contaminants out of your uniform. So I think $9,500 is a huge chunk of money to lose just washing your clothes. So that is one of my motivations to increase the public safety budget, was to focus on the cleanliness of those uniforms. So if one jumping shawl, well understood that.
So, anybody else comment on public? No, the public rate.
So with that, we'll close
The public hearing at what time?
at 7:19.
And so now, you can have a discussion amongst yourselves on the tax rate, or if you're all comfortable with the tax rate, then we can just move on to the next agenda item. Your choice.
I'm all for, I guess, lowering the tax rate, obviously, but I'm not willing to give on public safety. So, I mean, kind of that.
I'm the same way. I think it ought to be something on that.
I'm good with it is. That's a good budget.
With that, we'll move to the conducted public hearing.
Mr. Burke.
I'm sorry.
We are having, it appears that we may be jumping a little bit quick on some of our spending. We just annexed 200 and something homes. $900,000 are coming in the following years. If we could pass on some savings to the people, our citizens, currently and postpone some amount of money and pass them savings on to the citizens, I think would be, if only options 1, 9, and 2, 6, 2, 2, or 2, 3, whatever. Some way of helping our citizens save some money come tax time. A lot of them are just now getting back to work, et cetera, is my concern. And then finally, I think the washing machine was already in the budget, but there's other areas in here and other pieces of equipment and other increases in wages, et cetera, that maybe could wait till next year is what my thinking is.
So increases in wages, you wanna forego the 5% the city said, is that part of that?
It possibly could be, we haven't discussed it. A lot of our citizens probably did not get the automatic 5%. And I mean, nobody's here to talk about it, so I don't know exactly how they feel about it. But that is an area that maybe we could pass on to them. I don't know if it's even that much, but it's something that would help lower their taxes a little bit.
So how do you propose to move forward? Lower to 19 cents. Where do we get the money to clean the bunker gear? Where do we get the money to increase salaries? Are they not deserving of that?
Nobody said they weren't.
So then we have to save money from somewhere to take money from somewhere.
Have to look at the rest of the budget.
But should we just have this 1 week? But we're approaching deadline.
That's to be done.
We have to have this in by the 15th to the county,
Yes, sir. Yes.
and then the county has to get it into the state, right?
Well, it's got to be approved before the last day of September. But in our case, we have to approve it before the 15th day, right? Because the contractor is the county. So, yeah.
And yeah, I mean, I don't have a problem getting some money, but it came up for a week or so. And right now, we're, boom, up there.
Personally, thought everybody was happy with it.
Yeah, I think so too.
Well, Mayor, it does appear that the consensus of the council seems to be in agreement with that rate that's being proposed, so.
Yeah, like I said, by myself, I'm not gonna be able to change anything. I'm throwing it out there. And if y'all believe 26 cents and pass that on to the citizens, I'm fine with it.
I will say this, I mean, talking about if the rest of the citizens get wages, I don't know what they got at their jobs, I don't know what I got in mine. Got two of them.
I got 0, and if you're asking, if that's what you're asking.
I mean, I don't know. I did get 2 raises. One was $1 and the last one was $4 or something. That was a COL, what they call it, cost of living raise.
Right, but we're also paying for training and certifications, et cetera.
The training needs to be there. You need that training. I don't, how much training have you taken?
For what?
For being where you're at.
I haven't taken any. I read the handbook and that's what I'm going off of.
We're jumping back and forth in the tax budget, so I guess at this point, we probably ought to jump into the budget hearing. So at this time at 7:25.
Well, Mayor, before you do that, I would actually read agenda item 5B.
Sorry, 5B. Conduct a public hearing to consider the proposed budget for the fiscal year beginning on October 1, 2022 and ending September 30, 2023.
Okay, before you open the public hearing, I want to go over the changes in the budget. So if you get your budget document that you have in front of you. And just made some tweaks to the document that you discussed at the last meeting. And that document was just based on the discussion we had previously, based on the different spreadsheets that we showed you leading up to this. So just real quickly, for the benefit of the public that's here, the proposed budget is developed through an extensive process of meetings. It starts off by meeting with department heads to review requests for funding for departments. Then we start to prioritize those requests, determine what resources are truly needed and are available. We look at our financial constraints. We start trying to work to achieve the city goals. And then we start to put that in place based on the budget calendar that we have to follow under state law. We had a budget workshop on July the 18th, on August the 1st, on August the 15th, on August the 29th, and now we're having the public hearings tonight on the 6th, and then we have the actual adoption and discussion adoption on September the 12th. So there have been ample discussions as it relates to preparing the budget document you have here in front of you. The main thing that we've done here as it relates to the different funds, we've talked a lot about the general fund because that's the main fund that most citizens recognize as where the basic city services come from. And in that, we have departments that we have distilled down from the current budget. This current budget has a lot of departments that we've talked about that we don't necessarily need. So we've removed those from next year's budget, and we just down to the budgets, the departments that we have now in the budget, which include city council, administration, city secretary, municipal court, planning and development, public works, code enforcement, public safety, and parks and recreation. So those are the departments that are in this budget that come out of the general fund. But we also created some special revenue funds because we didn't have some of these, most of these, and we needed to do that. We talked about the special revenue funds, our earmark, the revenue comes from a specific location, and it can only be used for specific purposes. And that's why you have to keep that separate from all your other monies that you've got in your general fund. So that includes the debt service fund, the road impacting fund, the court security fund, the juvenile case management fund, the jury fund, the court technology fund, the parks grant fund, and the capital improvement projects fund are also in this budget under the special revenue category. I want to go over just a few highlights for the budget. So the budget is focusing on council priorities that we've had discussions on, which include maintenance of our public infrastructure. There's $135,000. I want to say that again. There's $135,000 in this budget for street maintenance. That includes $85,000 that is committed to leverage the $350,000 that we were awarded under the community development block grant for the road improvements and drainage improvements to Wilson Court and Cresser Lane. And you're going to hear more about that in another agenda item coming up later this night. There's also $192,000 in this budget for the purchase of a new truck, a crack ceiling trailer, and a hot box trailer. These three are all going to help us increase our performance of street maintenance, including the sealing of these cracks with a sealant that we should have been doing, crack sealing, as well as patching of potholes now with asphalt or hot mix. Instead of the cold mix that washes away after each good rain, now we're going to have the hot mix, and that's going to be a more permanent patch. So we're going to have a variety of ways to address maintenance. As was mentioned earlier, some streets and some of our subdivisions just need crack sealing. But there are other streets that the potholes are so bad, we're gonna have to go out there and do saw cuts of probably 4 foot by 4 foot sections and then tack it and then go in there and put the hot mix to have a more permanent drivable solution, but also to make sure that further degradation of that base and subbase does not continue to occur.
We agreed to finance that equipment.
Sir,
We agreed to finance that equipment.
that's what's in here. As I mentioned.
Finance, not purchase.
Correct. Well, you're gonna, on the revenues, we show a loan coming in for that amount, and then on the public works department, you show the money going out for the actual purchase of the equipment. I'm gonna have to bring those equipments back to the council for final approval anyway, so it's not a done deal just by adopting the budget. Okay, and same thing with the financing. I have to bring that back to the council, so it's not a done deal. Understand that's how this budget is based. So if the council says, no, we're not gonna do that, then we're gonna have to move some things around to figure out what we're gonna do or not. But again, just by adopting the budget doesn't necessarily mean that these are done deals, okay? So it's just the plan that we have that you're gonna adopt and let the citizens know, here's how we think we're gonna move forward next fiscal year. There's also the 5% cost of living adjustment included here for all employees. There's a full-time equivalent, or an FTE as we call them, to create the full-time maintenance tech position in Public Works, as well as there is $15,000 that I put in here to contract for 2 temp seasonal workers to help us again with the public infrastructure work we're going to be doing next year. So I've got more assets and more resources again. We're focusing on drainage, right-of-way maintenance, and street maintenance in our community. There's also a significant increase to the public safety budget as it relates to the contracting for fire protection services with Eastwise Fire Rescue. Again, another item we're going to talk about later tonight, as well as with the Justin Volunteer Fire Department. And we need both those contracts because our city straddles 2 different counties. So that's why we have 2 contracts instead of just 1. And then we are added money for increasing our contract deputies. We're using the resident deputy program for Wise County. And I'm trying to get contracts on the Denton County side so we can have deputies helping us out on the Denton County side as well. Either way, we have the resources there. And on top of that, there's money in this public safety budget to make improvements to the multi-purpose building so that we can go ahead and continue to assist either Eastwise Fire or Wise County EMS on some of their needs. One of them was mentioned earlier already, that's that extractor machine and dryer that we purchased back in 2020, but we never installed it. And so staff has gone out and gotten an estimate as to what we think it's going to cost for us to be able to install it. We can afford it, we're going to put it in, and that's actually going to benefit because that is going to clean the bunker gear and rid them of any toxins that they have when they're out there after they come back and fight a fire. And currently they don't have a way of doing that. So this is a much needed piece of equipment for our public safety. So again, another priority that's been addressed by the city council. We've also budgeted the $142,973 for this, our portion that we had committed for the grant that we landed with the Texas Parks and Wildlife to construct the park. And then on top of that, we're also getting another 71,000 approximately from a developer for the pavilion. So that again is money that's in this budget because it's money that we've committed to get things done. And we've added some money for special events. Again, based on discussions, council wanted to see more of these special events, so we put some money in there as well. So those are some of the highlights that are in this budget that we ended up tweaking a little bit. Keep in mind, this comes on the heels of the fact that we're just now wrapping up that $3 million street bond project for Chisholm Hills. And we're still going to move forward now because again, we have money earmarked here with the Graham and Wilson, with the Wilson Court and Cresser Lane improvements. And we're moving forward with the Graham Road reconstruction, again, as part of that agreement we made with the concrete batch plant. So we still have other road projects that we're working on in this fiscal year that's coming up, even though our $3 million bond project is actually winding down for the current year. So those are the highlights as to what we have. And then going to the revenue side, as I mentioned, based on my discussion, we've gone back and we've recalculated what we think we're going to bring in for the sales tax. And so we moved that amount up a little bit, up to 378,000. I believe it was 361,000. And that's based on how we're trending the last 6 months. We then go to the full, I think we're bringing in about 33,000. Is that what we said? For sales tax monthly?
Yes.
Yes, I think we're bringing in here lately, on average, last 6 months, about 33,000. So we went up to 31.5. But not, again, not all the way up, but higher than we had been calculating before. So with that extra money, it's where I'm able to cover the 10% increase for public safety and added some more money, so now we have 50,000. If you go look at public works under street maintenance, and then you've got the 85,000, which is what's gonna keep the Wilson and Crescent project moving forward. So with that, I'm happy to stand for any questions you have regarding the proposed budget.
Anybody have anything?
Nothing to your budget?
Yes, good.
That's, I'll make a couple comments we got. So on revenue, you know, look at page 13. So our proposed revenue, even though everybody's property taxes going up, our proposed revenue is $141,000 less this next year than current year. Due because we're expecting a down economy and we're budgeting for that. So $141,000 less money to work with because of the economy. And we have, I think it's a bit mixed up. So then we increased public works 261,000. So I was like, commend y'all for working. And I mean, starting with 141,000 less and getting us 260,000 more for streets. I appreciate everything y'all did to get us here.
Yeah, streets are important.
Well, if you want to open up the public hearing there, we'll see if there's any comments for the budget.
At this time, we'll open the public hearing for the budget at 7:37. Do we have anybody that comments about the budget? Questions? Richard?
Richard. Chief analysis. And I agree. I think it's a good budget as far as especially money for street maintenance. I mean, you know, I selfishly say my streets been deteriorating, so and actually the streets are road and they just need maintenance. I mean, it's not asking for a whole street repair. They just need maintenance and getting the hot pots and getting that stuff, that's this equipment that will go a long ways. And in addition, has continued to help get those projects done. So, you know, I asked to keep that in the budget, you know, no matter what. And also, additional money for public safety, so it's needed. So, you know, I think it's a good budget. I think they did a good job as far as, you know, covering those costs and especially the revenue. And, you know, I would hate to see the tax rate cut, you know, personally, because, you know, the state limits and the caps, you have to go down, you can't recover that, go back up and cover those costs, so keep that going too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brad.
Was there somebody? Well, was there somebody else?
Yes, it looked like Nelson and Robin Craig were trying to unmute themselves, but I muted them just now because they were squeaking. So I was messaging them, they can unmute. So Robin or Craig, if y'all want to unmute again, if you wanted to speak, I wasn't sure if that was on purpose or not.
Yeah, this is Craig. Of course, just barely joined. So I don't even have, I don't have a comment one way or the other because I haven't even heard the budget. I know there was something to do with tax rates, but I couldn't understand the agenda item. I don't know if you guys discussed that yet or not.
Yes, we have.
Yes.
So was that there's.
Okay, Brooke, this is Robin Cross. If you're using Zoom or you're using a camera, they can participate in public comment, but they cannot participate in public comment by phone. It's prohibited. I did research that. So if they have a camera and they can appear so that you can see them, yes, that is permissible. We can't do it over the phone.
I'm not on the phone.
Okay.
So it's on now.
Yes, sir.
No, I'm just trying to find out if the proposed tax thing was overall an increase or what was the proposed. If somebody could just give me a 2-second.
So the proposed tax rate will be 26.
26.1.
26.1. So it's actually, the tax rate is going down 3 cents and change. One way you look at it, by the way Austin looks at it, it's gonna be, it'll be a tax increase, but even though it's 3 cents cheaper.
Okay, and I'm going to remind the speaker that we are in public comment on the budget now and not the tax rate.
Okay.
Okay, well, I thought the tax rate was part of the budget. That's fine. Like I said, I apologize. I just barely was able to get on.
I understand.
Thank you. Is that the only questions you had? Any questions on the budget while you're there?
No, not right now. I'd have to look at it.
Okay. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Anybody else? So with that, we'll close the public hearing for the budget at 7:41.
Any further direction from council?
What do you want to hear, John?
Sir?
What do you want to hear right now?
That you're good, so I don't have to work any more late hours, make any more changes, but I'm gonna do whatever the consensus of the council tells me.
So we're about to go through the budget again, right? Is that what we're about to do? Oh, wait, that was it, right?
Well,
That
yes,
was-
this is what we're at, right here.
Okay.
So if we have any more changes, it'd be nice to know now, because
Well, I'd love to hear.
it's a hard thing to do it when we're actually getting ready to adopt it next week.
If there's an opportunity to take the tax rate down, I would love to hear Mr. Royce and Mr. Berger's ideas. I would love that.
We don't prepare the budget.
No, I think getting the feedback helps them prepare the budget.
Yeah, we'd like to see the tax rate go down.
You said
I would like to see the
0.19.
tax rate go down.
How do we get to 0.19?
It's not my job to figure that out.
We gotta help, it's all of our ideas, it's all of our points of views. I brought the budget up to help the community. You wanna bring it down, okay, how do we help the community and bring it down? That's what I'm asking.
Would help the community by bringing it down, it's money out of their pockets.
So where do we suggest, John, to cut 160,000?
There's gonna be a vote on the budget. The discussion that I already had were suggestions that maybe a used truck and a used crack sealer, or whatever it's called, that some of these things may be pushed into the next year's budget after we have Paloma Ranch come in here and we have more money. That was my suggestion. If the council, majority of the council believes that this is a good opportunity for the citizens, then that's the way the vote will go. I mean, I've already made my statement on what I thought. It sounds like it's too late to bring up these ideas, but that's what my statement was at the very beginning on where I thought that there could be a little bit of money saved. And, you know, we got 190,000 for new equipment, new truck and new equipment, which would automatically, if that was postponed another year, would bring the tax rate down to 190 if the calculations are right. So those were my ideas. I did not say get rid of the washing machine in the fire department, but we're proposing later in the agenda a new contract with the fire department that is way over double than what it's ever been before, and maybe that's a necessity, and that will also be discussed. But there are increases in this budget in some avenues that maybe if the council were in agreement would say, okay, I think we could save money here and make it 2.5 or 2.2 or whatever. If the council is saying this is what they want, then that's what they want. But it's an open discussion, and that was my discussion.
So I think the whole road repair stuff, delaying a year is probably not the best option. However, if you remember during discussions, I did ask John and Josh many questions about, are they trained in this? Do they need this equipment? Can we lease it out? Or can we contract out the labor? So if they're if there is an opportunity, and that's why I asked if we're gonna finance it or buy it, because obviously, buying it, your cash is gone. Maybe it is an area we consider, saving a few dollars, but to postpone the projects. I think if you took away the equipment overall already, I think you postponed road improvements in major areas of the town I have. So, to this point of a used truck versus a brand new, maybe we go to United Rentals and get buy one of their used, crack sealers or whatever, but not to remove that from, I wouldn't agree with moving that stuff in the budget now.
I may be wrong, but if you was to buy a used truck, your used truck you're buying at retail. And I don't think you could buy a used truck for what we're getting a new truck for. But, it'll be up there. The other concern I had, with the equipment is, we need to get this done. Our vehicle now is what year model?
2008.
2008. So we're pretty poor on trucks to start with.
Right.
And we try to do something, so we have to run out, drop a trailer, a piece of equipment, come back. We spend half the day because we only have one truck jockeying back and forth, and we can't get anything done. In my opinion, we're wasting money, time and money with only one truck. I don't know about used.
Yeah, that's
Mayor. I don't know anything about used road equipment, but, we'll look at some lease, but I don't think a lease would be any different would be that much better than buying, financing.
Michelle, what am I allowed to address Michelle? It's $22,000, I'll call it a point. Is it $22,000 a point roughly? So if you go from.
Yeah, it's about 22,800. I did the math. So every cent you drop it, we would have to cut around $22,800 out of the budget. I'd also like to point out the question about the equipment. So we actually have a revenue account built in to take out the loan for the equipment. So axing the equipment and moving it to next year doesn't actually save us any money, because on the revenue side, we have a revenue built in for the loan we're going to take out. So moving equipment to next fiscal year just also decreases the revenue and also decreases the expenditure. So that would not save us any money from the discussion y'all are having.
So how do we save $22,000?
Well, there are a lot of other items that are built in for next year. There are raises that are built in, sorry. There are, increases in line items for street maintenance that are built in. You'll need to keep at least $85,000 in it because you guys have an agreement for the CDBG grant that you have to match for it. So you will lose that grant if you don't contribute that money. Same with the park project. You have a contribution that you're required to meet your obligations for the grant. So you cannot eliminate those expenses.
So now we're talking about risk. Taking on some additional risk if you put in the budget too much, right? So if we get to $84,999, we can't come up with $85,000. So we're in default for that grant, right?
Well, you would be in default of the match you're required to meet for the CDBG grant.
So then we run the risk of taking on risk.
You would run the risk of losing that grant opportunity.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know what your paperwork
And that's how
grant looks like. Yeah.
That's how 1 cent, right? 22,000.
Yeah, 22,000 is for every cent. So the difference between the no new revenue rate and the voter approved rate is roughly 7 cents. About $160,000, so each 22 cents or 22,800-ish is every cent that you drop it.
In there at one point, if we say we lower or something like that, we're not have to bring it up for a vote or something.
If you go above a certain amount, so if you were wanting to go above 20, if you were going to go above 26 cents, you can go to a higher rate, but it would trigger a rollback. It would trigger an election. Yeah, that's the only time it would go to an election is if you went above the 26 cents. Yes, sir.
No, no.
No, yeah, you don't want to do that.
No.
Want to cut it at $4 cost of living there? Yeah. Cut it at that $4 cost of living there?
Thanks very much for the item and cut back.
So you need 163,000, right? That's the difference we're looking at, roughly?
To drop it to full 70 cents.
Yeah,
Yes.
147 of that being spent on a park.
Well, I'm not there talking to the kids deserve that park, so,
Big one here.
that, they wait their whole life.
So we lose $150,000 grant, we don't do it, right?
That's correct.
Yes. And then we won't get that back, will we? So the park will only be gone forever, instead of just 1 year, right?
Those kids wait their whole life to getting a park.
Well, it's already been approved by council, so.
So, yeah.
So, Mayor, any further direction?
I was talking about contracts with, for public safety. I do know that some cities to the west of us, their last year's budget was 30,000, what they were paying the city was paying their fire, and it's gonna go up considerably this year, and their total population is only 2,200 at 20, so, I personally thought our budget was too small in public safety, and our contract was too small, but we've got to work in the window we have, and that we did a good job of that, but I would like to see it bigger, but, that's the only other comment I have is we are still, in my opinion, underpaying our East and Justin. We're gonna be underpaying East and Justin both compared to what other cities are paying our size for the same service.
Anybody who steps in to protect me is not getting paid enough.
Yeah. And that's all I have. Anybody else? So with that, we'll move to C, discuss, consider an act on a resolution approving fire protection agreement with East Wise Fire Rescue.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll take that item. So the Wise County portion of the city of Fairview is located within the fire protection service area of East Wise Fire Rescue Department. East Wise Fire Rescue has been providing fire protection service for residents in New Fairview for several years. However, the city has never had a contract or formal agreement with East Wise Fire and Rescue to provide these services. So it's long overdue. There is agreement that was made to formalize this long-standing relationship between the city and East Wise Fire Rescue for fire protection and prevention, rescue and assisting emergency medical services, as well as hazmat material services. The term of the agreement before you is from the effective date to and including through September 30th of 2023, so a little over a year. As part of this agreement, East Wise Fire Rescue will maintain needed emergency response vehicles and equipment. They'll make reasonable efforts to maintain the lowest possible fire insurance classification and rate for property within the city. You might have heard it as an ISO rating. They'll continue to maintain the fire chief, participate in drills and training by all active firefighters. They will enter into a written mutual aid agreement with the Justin Volunteer Fire Department for fire protection, emergency medical related services to all citizens of the city residing within the city limits of New Fairview on the Denton County side. And the mutual agreement must be finalized within 6 months of the effective date. The city shall provide and maintain a fire station facility and grounds for the benefit of East Wise Fire Rescue for its various activities. At its option, we can convey land or provide equipment, materials, or assistance to East Wise Fire Rescue as we deem appropriate. East Wise the staff recommends the resolution to be approved, and this financial consideration here is the city has agreed to pay East Wise Fire Rescue the fixed sum of $26,400 annually. They'll be paid out monthly in the amounts of $2,200 per month. So that's what's in this agreement that has been discussed with the command staff of East Wise Fire Rescue. And my understanding is the membership voted and approved it, and I have the signed copy ready to go. So with that, I stand for any questions.
Who's the chief?
The chief is present if you want to meet him.
Who is it?
Love the meeting.
Jim, you want to come introduce yourself?
Sure. Hey, Jim, what do you want? The chief.
Who are you?
Jim Blackney?
Jim Black.
Yes.
Nice to meet you. I'm John Bissett, please.
John? Yep.
What are we paying Justin Fire Department?
Right now, we pay just the fire department $4,000.
Annually?
Yes, sir. But we're renegotiating that contract.
And what are we, thinking in terms of numbers with Justin Fire Department?
Probably about 10,000, but we're gonna have a clause in there that sum will be reduced if, Falconbridge ends up, being disannexed from the city. Because that's a main driver for service out there for Justin Fire Department. And even though we are seeing some development along South Carolina Road with Paloma Ranch, we're not there yet as far as actual occupied structures yet for this next fiscal year to balance out the loss of Falcon Ridge and then the bringing on Paloma Ranch. But we'll probably need it in 2 years' time.
Well, I hope you enjoy your washing machine. I'm glad we are paying you more than we're paying Justin Fire Department, although I do live on that side of town. I appreciate Justin Fire, but I want to make sure you cover a greater landmass, a greater population.
Yep.
Thank you for what you guys do. I hope you enjoy the extra few dollars.
It'll be
You
used.
need more.
And you can come use our washing machine anytime.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Anytime.
Any other questions, comments?
I'd like to say that this is best. We needed this. I was willing to pay much more of this, all I can budget and support. You guys deserve more, and hopefully, as we prosper, we can be of greater value to you, because I know you're of tremendous value to us. So thank you.
Thank you.
Now, this is an annual budget, so we'll be having a discussion with them again next year. And I suspect that amount's going to increase as well, just like typically happens. But also keep in mind the conversations I've had with you all. We need to figure out what we're going to do about the gas inspection program. And we need to start inspecting the gas wells here. And we basically got 3 options. We either hire a city employee, we contract with a private business, or we try and work something out with Eastwise Fire. And so I'm still trying to refine numbers. I'm not ready to have that conversation yet, but there's a possibility that if we contract with Eastwise Fire, that they're willing to step up and do the inspections. That would be a significant amount of money that they're going to be able to now start to funnel back into their equipment, their training, their apparatus.
So did I read correctly, Wise County today, that there's 919 wells that need to be plugged between Wise, Palo Pinto, and doesn't really matter, but Wise has a significant amount of wells that need to be plugged for non-usage. Does that
Plus 2.
25 million?
Yeah,
And they
that's-
laughed at the number because
Yes,
it's
that's
like,
probably supposed to be like 10%.
yeah.
So, yes, I read that too, from Bill Stevenson.
Does that affect us at all? I mean, just speaking of the wellness that you brought it up, so.
Well, it really depends on how many of the older wells we have here from the initial Barnett Shale, which I don't have that information, but we've got a lot of those. And yeah, there's probably some that are there and there's been a lot, useful life that are probably going to be. Okay.
That, do we have a?
I move to approve a resolution approving a fire protection agreement with Eastwise Fire Rescue.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Yes. Thank you. Thank you. So we'll move to D, discuss, consider, and act on a joint ordinance and boundary agreement with the city of Fort Worth to adjust the extraterritorial jurisdiction between the cities of Fairview and Fort Worth in Benton County.
Will you project this first one, please? Yes, sir, I'll take this one.
This is pretty exciting.
So the city of Fairview has requested that the city of Fort Worth release extraterritorial jurisdiction, or ETJ as we call it, to the city of Fairview as depicted in the exhibit that'll pop up here in just a second.
Come on, COVID, Brandon.
comment on it, it's in there we go.
Would you go to the next one, please? So there are two specific tracks here that Fort Worth, we've asked Fort Worth to release. As you can see there, the larger track is down there on the bottom. It's right next to the land that was just recently annexed for Paloma Ranch 3 and 4. That's that little green kind of finger looking portion there at the bottom. And so that tract of land just to the east of it, and also with the finger sticking up, going up to about 407, is one of these sections. And so you'll see when Fort Worth releases that and it becomes now New Fairview's ETJ, we will be butting up against Justin's ETJ, because that gray area to the right of that orange area is Justin's ETJ. Then up there at the top, above B Judge Lane, there's a small section there, that triangular piece, that also Fort Worth is releasing to us, and we're going to add that to our ETJ. And again, that continues to abut next to where Justin's ETJ is. The section, the bigger section there that touches 407 is going to be very important to us because as we will have discussions here soon, to talk about the possibility of water and wastewater lines coming in from Justin. We're thinking that they'll probably be coming in along 407 because one of the developments that's going to be a benefactor of that is going to be the Constellation Lake, and that's that big square, the white square that's right next to that orange piece. That's Constellation Lake. And so obviously the connection of water, wastewater will be coming down through 407. And us having the ETJ as well as the land in our state limits makes it that much easier for us to negotiate the contracts for installation of infrastructure in the ground. So the city of Fort Worth has agreed to go ahead and release those two sections of ETJ to New Fairview. And in fact, you have a boundary agreement in front of you that City of Fort Worth has already reviewed and approved. And so they just want us to approve it first. They are currently scheduled to take this in front of their city council later this month for their approval if we approve ours in time for them to make that meeting. And with that, I stand for any questions.
Benefits?
So the benefits, again, is going to be the fact that it's going to make it easier for us, at least along that 407 section. Secondly, we get to control, so we possibly stand a chance of controlling development in those sections because they're now in our ETJ as opposed to Fort Worth's ETJ, or as Justin continues to grow, if that ETJ was not already taken, they could have taken it. But if we don't end up taking it, my understanding is Fort Worth is really not interested in having it, so they could turn around and talk to Justin and see if Justin wants to take it. And so that Justin's ETJ just moves a little closer to us.
So the big square at the bottom, isn't that the like part of that land people that spoke at last week's meeting, an objection to Paloma Ranch?
I think part of it is, yes, sir.
Is that 12, is that the 1,200 acres or 1179? No, that's the 3,300, 1179 is up there. Right?
I believe so, but that neighborhood is nowhere near 1,000 acres. That neighborhood is like 250. Those people
Yeah.
here. Because they're all, most of those lots are 5 to 8. There's some oddballs that get a little bigger than that.
And what are some of the cons, John? Pros, so the pros is access to the water, development, annexing to the city. What are some of the, why would we not do this?
Well, there's really no con because there's no financial impact, no burden on the city as far as an ETJ. There's very limited in what we can do short of requiring planning and several subdivision regulations. Short of that, there's not anything that we really control the ETJ. It just makes that land, again, available for us to determine. For example, if a developer comes in, they say they want to build X, we have more of a say if it's in RTJ than if it's not in RTJ.
Gotcha.
And sometimes that's what's happened with, when you have some feuds between cities, this happens a lot when you have fast-growing cities, is you'll end up with a city building an industrial park on their fringe, but it's right next to a subdivision or a park area or something that another city's planning something else, and that other city can't stop it because it's not in their ETJ, it's in this other city's ETJ. So having that ETJ is kind of a buffer to protect you from some sort of adverse development that you'll want in your city. But at least this way you have a say because it's in your ETJ and not necessarily because it's in somebody else's ETJ.
Was it offered to Justin?
Sorry?
I'm sorry, Harvard. Was it offered to Justin first?
Not that I'm aware of. Not that I'm aware of. Yes,
There's no budget, maintenance, nothing we have to do to that.
even the roads stay in the county. There's nothing that we're responsible for.
Even if it goes to the city, it still remains county roads?
Yeah, until land gets annexed into the city, then that's when the city takes over the right of way.
Roads and,
Roads and any right of way drainage and whatnot, yeah. But other than that, it's all still county obligation.
And very little of that, well, none of that's vacant land, except maybe the part of prejudged land. The rest of that's already developed in some form or fashion. That little stretch on Santa Reynolds.
does that include that,
That's an underground house that you see about a story and a half.
Pyramid.
Yes. And I can tell you,
what about that JR sales, we're talking, is it, are the JR sales guys, you there too?
it's the.
And the RV park, are they there?
They're right in our ETJ.
They're ETJ right now?
Yes.
Okay,
You're talking about the one on 407?
yeah,
Yeah, that's already. in our-
that's already ETJ.
But that's, yeah, it's north of 407.
Has there been any discussion with making that, phase 5 and 6 of Dove Hollow?
Oh, gosh, no, I don't think that.
They'd have to buy another house.
Yeah, see, it wouldn't be a good financial business decision because as the mayor mentioned, there's already houses there and tracts of land. I drove it the other day. Joshua and I were out there looking at, see what that all entailed. So there's already a lot of homes built there, anywhere from maybe 1 acre lots to 5 acre plus lots. So any developer who wanted to develop anything like a Paloma Ranch or Falcon Ridge or whatever is gonna have to buy up all of those individual lots, and that's gonna be a lot more money than if you just bought raw land. So I don't see that developing into anything. The only way I can see that is at some point, if a commercial developer wants to come in and let's say they want to build a 7-Eleven or something, they'll end up buying a tract of land somewhere in there, possibly abutting a road. And then they'll want to come in and probably be annexed into the city at that point. So that's really the only way I can see happening. And really, I think a lot of that may be along something like 407, maybe Dove Hollow, but I doubt that. I think there's ever be anything that might develop like that would be along 407.
Harvey, what's your thoughts on growth over there? What's your thoughts on growth over there? Buying that 33, or being donated to us, I guess, if you will, 3,300 acres. The 1,200 on 20.
Any questions, concerns, thoughts?
I'd rather us have a chance at it. Somebody else to it.
I don't think it's a negative, but I don't see any great positives.
All you're doing is creating a buffer.
That's the big.
You're never gonna annex that in.
No.
Right, I won't say never, but you'll have to get approval from the residents there to annex it.
I'm not sure. I think those streets in that neighborhood really even private road. I don't think it's.
Yeah, there's been a lot of private roads. Now, there are some county roads, Control County, but there are also some private roads.
Yeah, the main road that goes through is county. It wasn't Sam Rickman, but then all the rest of the offshoots appear to be private.
Yeah, and in fact,
What,
Joshua took some pictures there, because when we meet with, Commissioner Edmondson, I want to show her where they have a potential liability on.
Oh, my God.
What is it, Jack? Was that Jackson?
Yeah. First Street.
That's, yeah, that's where they were complaining about the water, the flooding.
Mr. Beck and his cousin.
Oh, I don't remember the name. They were talking about the water going over the road. Well, we know exactly why the water's going over the road, because they've done no maintenance of their drainage way, number one. Number two, it's woefully undersized, you can tell, and, there's a lot of maintenance that's needed.
Or Bellflower and that street, they're both undersized.
Yes, but that one in particular is, and so anyway, we got a few pictures to show her, because I really think that's a liability for the county, and I don't know if she's aware of it, but.
We get part of that 17 lane over
No. We don't want, because that's in the ETJ, we want it, it's gonna benefit the city. We want to focus on B Judge Lane and South Carolina Road, and maybe that portion of Dove Hollow, that's in our city. That is not in our city, that may be in our ETJ after tonight, but that's still unincorporated county land, so it's still fully their responsibility.
Yeah.
Not our, right, yes, sir.
Listen, I mean, we use some of the county's money to get the road state, that $17 million surplus she wasn't expecting.
Correct, and that's what I'm saying, we want to partner with them and leverage some funds,
Yeah. but
we want to do it in the roads that they're responsible for.
So we can help the farmers get those roads up and running.
Right, well, it's up, she can spend the money wherever she wants in the county, right, it's up to her, and that would be solely her discretion. But yeah, we're trying to see if, because usually when you're gonna do a project like that, you want to do it not just for the city part of it, but you also do it for the county part, right? Kind of like we did the, 4770, is that where you went on this year? So you did that improvement, of course, a big chunk of that was in the city, but a portion of that was in the county, and it just made sense to do it all at one time. Okay, because the driver's not gonna know, and they don't care, they just want their code improved, right? So that's how you enter into that partnership with the county. So kind of like we're doing with Wise County.
And we're still on the ETJ agreement, right? Somewhere?
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, we're
Okay.
talking about the roads that are in that ETJ. The question was funding responsibility for the roads.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Good job, Robbie. Keep us on track tonight.
Is that all? No more questions, concerns? Do we have a?
I move to approve the ordinance and boundary agreement with the city of Fort Worth to adjust the ETJ between the cities of New Fairview and Fort Worth.
Motion, do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay. All right.
It was unanimous.
Yes, it was unanimous.
Unanimous.
All right, so with that, we'll move into E, discuss, consider, and act on a resolution for the city of Fairview, Texas, awarding the drainage improvement project for Wilson Court Industrial Lane to J.R. West Texas Construction for a total of $426,991.50 and establish a not to exceed project contingency of $50,000.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to ask our city engineer, Riley Perula, to give the staff presentation, but before he does, again, I just want to remind you of some of the background here. You recall, we landed a Texas Department of Agriculture, Texas Community Development Block Grant for $350,000. And that's going to be for improvements. Initially, it's going to be for Layfield and Presser, but we've amended it now, and it's going to be Presser Lane and Wilson Court. We've committed about $85,000 to go towards that project, and we already talked about that in the budget, where we got that budgeted in. However, when we visited with our commissioner to talk about it, because our commissioner stepped up and said, yeah, they'll be happy to do the roads first, which is great, because they're the best value that we can get for the roads. The problem is, they are not wanting to touch any of the drainage that's needed on those two roads. Unfortunately, we don't have the ability to do those roads ourselves. And if the county's not gonna do it, then the only thing we have left is we have to contract that out. So, I asked our engineer if he would prepare the bids document so we can bid it out and see what kind of bids we get in, and then we can come back and talk to the council about whether or not we want to award the drainage projects to one of these bidders. Keep in mind that we need to do the drainage improvements first before we even touch the roads. And you don't want to go in there and just do the roads and not touch the drainage, because the reason the roads are in the condition they are in is because the drainage is so bad that water's flowing over and around and on top of a lot of sections of those roads, and just affecting not just the roads, but the base of the subbase. So if you're gonna do this and do it right, you need to go ahead and take care of the drainage portion first. And then after that's done, then you come in and do your road reconstruction on top of that. So with that, I'll turn it over to Riley to talk about the bids that we just went through and what that entails.
Yeah, well, thanks for the introduction to that. Mayor, Council, Riley Krillick, City Engineer.
You working out?
Am I working out?
Yeah.
No, I'm not working out, but no, I need to get back into it, but thank you. Anyways, he did a good job of explaining what these bids were. Walter came by and was at the bid opening with me and Josh, and we had two bidders. We had JR West Texas, which they just got done doing the concrete work out there, so they're familiar with the area. I am assuming they have a local plant somewhere because we got pretty good prices from them. And the other one was G-Rod Construction that came in some ungodly $700-something thousand.
G-Rod, what's that?
G-Rod was extremely high. Some of the prices didn't make
Like your
their.
Fairview local? Boy.
Yeah, they're pretty close to around here, so I thought they would have had a decent price on those as well. But more background, we have the $350,000 grant that has already been awarded to the city. Previous administration and myself and other staff have worked to get that grant to this point. We've had everything awarded to the city. It's at the point where it's ready. We just need the approval of now the budget for this roadway. This, as John was mentioning, is to improve the drainage so that we can have the county come in and fix it. There's drainage improvements that need to be done in these areas first that the county has stated they did not want to help the city out with. They just want to come and pave the roadway for us. So by having to do that, it kind of worked in our favor that we had the city has the monies to be able to afford paying for the drainage improvements in this area with that block grant. And that'll take care of the extent of this project. The northern quarter of Cresser Lane, which is on the west side of the screen, there's a drainage crossing. We're going to take care of that. We're going to reshape the ditches and regrade them for driveways that have crushed and covered up safety end treatments or the lack thereof safety end treatments, but driveway culverts, we're going to replace those so that we have adequate ditch flow. And then along Wilson Court, the whole L, we're doing the same thing of making sure the ditches are reshaped and regraded in the areas that need the improvements. On the east-west portion of Wilson Court, we have two drainage crossings that flow from the south to the north. We're replacing head walls on that. And then there's a third drainage crossing on Wilson Court, about a third of the way up the north-south portion where it flows from the east to the west. And we're replacing the culvert there as well. So that's the scope of the project. Yes,
One
sir.
of those streets that has the portrait of willow and cottonwood trees in the.
Yes, sir. The one on Cresser Lane is the one that has the trees that are growing through the outfall and blocking the outfall currently. So, yes, sir. Again, this is just help to the next step forward to get as much done in this neighborhood as we can. I've been working with council it's been at least 3.5 years of trying to get as much work in this neighborhood as possible. We're wrapping up the bond project that we just had, finishing up punch list items with the contractor, and the next thing is to move forward. The city has that $350,000 block grant, and this is just something that we're able to use that grant money for, with the local match at 85,000 the city has. Any other questions?
We say yes tonight.
I'm a little concerned about the bids being so far apart. I mean, you're talking about a 40% difference.
Yeah.
That one just didn't want.
The other one, most likely, looking at the prices, looking one by one, they just didn't want it. They're looking to try to get, if we were that serious, the city needed the drainage work done that badly, and they had to move forward with it. They're just picking the pockets of the city that they can get 700,000 from.
Did you do estimates on this?
I did estimates on them. My estimate came in right at 465,000. So they're actually below, which miraculously, I have not been very right recently due to how crazy the contractors' prices are. It's very tough to actually have someone below. So it was nice to see that, whether it's only a couple thousand below what my estimate was, and it's still a good amount of money at 430,000. It's nice to know that, you know, it's what the market value is compared to other things right now. So
Yeah, I'm just a little concerned that they're buying it and they're gonna change orders to that.
no, sir. That is not something that I foresee coming with this project. So,
Okay.
yeah.
So if we approve this tonight, what's the timeline?
That is what, once we get this approved, I can begin my work, with the contractor and their project manager and discuss with them that's gonna be something we gotta talk with them. Hopefully, I want to get this going as soon as possible and get this taken care of so we can start talking to the county as soon as they're open to coming and fixing the roads for the city. You know, hopefully there's not big backlog on work for JR West Texas. That's unforeseen. I haven't had that conversation with them yet.
Well, my thought process is we've asked for, or the city's asked for a 12% contingency, you know, that in case we miss something, right? If we do it in the next 90 to 120 days, break ground, do you need $50,000 or can we stay at less than 10% contingency? Give you the 42. I mean, even if you don't see fit.
So the only purpose of to have the contingency in there is to try to not hold up the project.
Right.
If there's something unforeseen, if there's something that happened, which this is a very low risk project where it's 4 culvert crossings that I'm fairly confident of what's out there that we're not going to be seeing anything like that. But until you start digging around and doing things, you never know. The project is quite straightforward. We're not talking about like, and we just got done dealing the change order on Hilltop Trail where we had 9 barrels at the bottom of the barrels were rusted out, and we didn't see that until we started cleaning them out and moving around dirt. These culverts are being replaced. The biggest foreseen thing is that we know there's already a tree on Presser Lane blocking the culvert, and instead of being able to save those culvert pieces and put a head wall on it, we just have to remove, we're pulling out those horns and we're putting in a new drainage pipes in that area. So that's, you know, the 50% is in there so that we can move forward with the project. We don't happen to have an accidental 60-day hiccup of we got to come and do, you know, budgeting and do all that stuff.
I just don't want them to feel free to spend the money. You know, I want
It's
them to be
not-
responsible.
No.
They gotta get to us, and we've been down this road before, so that just because they ask for it doesn't necessarily mean they're gonna get it, or that we're gonna say, yeah, we need it, so. But that just ensures that we've got that additional cushion, so we don't have to keep saying, well, stop everything.
Let's go to
We
council.
gotta go to council, I gotta find a meeting date, get it approved, that's all that is.
Again, it's a never say never world, but
Drainage,
yeah,
big
it's
bucks.
a very unforeseen thing.
So, like you asked, let's get lost into that. So here's what we have, keep in mind. This is gonna wipe out our CDBG grant and the money that we've got earmarked for this project. So we'll be able to pay for the drainage work, but we're not gonna have the money to pay the county to come and do the streets as part of this grant, okay? Now, that doesn't mean we can't still move forward with the project, because first of all, remember, the county doesn't do any of these street reconstructions until it's hot. So they're not, they already informed us, they're not even gonna be able to get to these roads. So even if we did the drainage work this month and we had it ready to go,
Yeah.
the county's not gonna be able to come out here until next summer to do the roads. And we want the county to do it because again, they give us the best value. So we'll just make sure that the roads stay maintained as best they can till it gets us to the hot summer months, and then the county will put us on their work schedule and we'll get it done. So that gives us time, once we have all the drainage work, that gives us, Riley, myself and staff time to go back and visit with the county and get some better numbers now as to what it's gonna cost. And now, once I have that number, I plan to come to the council. We're fortunate that right now we do have a good fund balance, again, a rainy day fund. So we could draw down, I'm just estimating right now, so don't hold me to this number. So let's say it's $100,000 that we're gonna have to pay the county to get this job done. Remember, we're paying for the materials, they're paying for the personnel and the equipment, short of anything that they don't own that we need to rent, we cover. Otherwise, we're all just in it for the materials, right? So if it ends up being, say, 100,000, well, we can go ahead and, as the council, we can go ahead and direct me to draw down that 100,000 from our fund balance, move that money into our capital fund, which is where this project is housed right now, and it should be, and the money's coming out of there. And when comes time this summer, then we can go ahead and move forward with the county. I'll bring you back, it's called an ILA, an interlocal agreement, that basically says the county's going to do these roads for us, and all we're responsible for is going to be the material costs that we estimate to be X. And so once the council approves that, then again, Riley and I will start working with them to get that project on the schedule and get it done. So this needs to be done.
Yeah.
At some point. We prefer to do it sooner than later based on, again, trying, the way material costs keep going. So we're better off doing it. But understand, I want to make sure the expectation is not, okay, we did the drainage project, where's the road? Well, can't do the roads till the county's ready to do the roads. That's not going to be till the summer, no matter what. Okay? We don't want to contract that out because we won't have enough money to do it. We'll probably have enough money if the county does it. So a little patience is going to pay off for us. And then secondly, that gives us time to better refine some numbers and figure out exactly how much it's going to cost, we think, in materials. So then I can come back to the council with a plan and as well as an interlocal agreement. So this project can still get done.
Okay.
Following that launch start.
We're next summer away.
Yes, sir. Sometime next summer before you complete.
For the roads, the drainage is.
But drainage can be done, yeah, sooner rather than later.
I'm assuming drainage on this is gonna be less than 90 days. Barring a big wet season that we pops up in the middle of it. I mean, this is pretty straightforward drainage construction work.
I'd like to go ahead and at least get the rains done before we have spring rains and.
Yes, sir.
October rain.
In October rain shifts. Any other questions, comments, concerns?
All right.
Do I have a motion?
I make a motion that we act on the resolution for Sydney Fairview, Texas, awarding grants improvement project, Wilson Court, Fresh Lane, to JR West Texas Construction, a total of $426,991.50, establishing a not to exceed project contingency of $50,000.
Motion, do I have a second?
I just have one final question before the second. So the number is 426.9. Within 90, roughly 90, within 90 days, maybe. And then they have it not to exceed another 50 on top of that, so this is potentially 476, right?
If
We get there.
Staff
Yeah.
agree there, yes, but again, I don't think we're going to go anywhere near that price, no.
But they're making the 426.9 regardless.
Oh, yeah, that's the awarded, that's the bid,
That's the bid.
that's what they're going to get, yes, sir.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Unanimous vote.
Can we have a break?
Yeah, let's take a 5-minute break.
Let's do it.
Okay, at 8:30.
Yeah, well, I don't have any more clips to leave out here.
Gary.
That's right.
Can you find something for waiting?
And then,
Again, I think that some of the information we may already have, you know. It changed a lot, so, you know, having another fresh start on it is probably.
Most of them now.
Are they just stacking dirt on top of dirt in your ravine there, Dave?
Of course, that's what they do. They can't fix anything right.
What's that?
They can't fix anything right, that's what they do.
They Band-Aid, they barely Band-Aid, because it rains again.
No, that's all the stuff washing on the spot across the street, they just get a skid steer and drive it in there and dump it. I've got Mr. Reagan out here from the Floyd Crest. Last time he was here, I told him, I said, you come in my yard again with your equipment, I'm gonna sue you.
They dug you up pretty good.
Yeah. Landscape crew did, before that, one of Floyd Crest's contractors did.
Good job, hey.
And the landscaper was done too, but he also brings the list too.
Maintenance training?
Yeah, I got that grant, so we're in here doing, today and tomorrow is, work zone safety and flagging certification, and then Thursday, Friday is, signs and street marking, maintenance and installation.
You passed your test in code enforcement?
That's next week.
Damn, dude, how many next weeks are there?
Well, I had to wait for them to send me a damn postcard, a passcode, a number to call into. It's a bureaucratic nightmare. I thought it was gonna be send me an email and let me call. But I got my postcard the other day, so now I can call in front of mine what slot they have. So God's honest truth, I'm praying it'll be next time.
Better be Monday, dude.
They got roofs.
Huh? Nope. There's some in the office.
Some in the office. I'm gonna leave that one
Yeah, my team's at pro right now. Yeah, my team.
Football?
I hate
No, my company, my team. I called them my team. What's that say? I got 22.
Hey, guys, maybe, thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Good job.
We appreciate it.
Absolutely. No. Y'all, appreciate y'all.
Good job.
Mayor?
Thank you, sir.
Good job, guys. All right, we'll keep it going.
Are y'all on duty right now?
Yes.
We're always on duty. There's no doubt.
Are y'all?
That's what it's been.
We just, I just, I'm on the road, he lives in.
So right now, we're here.
We already did two donate that.
We need the one back. We need the person that we had here. Just what I was going on, so I'm getting tired of that machine. We get some real drag.
Sorry, a lot of.
And what if a little quicker to help us, but now that's the same thing that we're doing with the big thing. It's a lot different than, 30,000.
Good thing for change in the future.
Well, that's kind of why we are, we just talked about this, inspection is a big thing for us, and, hopefully we can shake out where we left off last time.
Well,
It's just so we figured that out right now. What's that?
I gotta hear this a little bit.
Yeah, we do, and we'll talk about it, so there's a lot to be discussed, and everything is, makes no sense for us, but, again, well, that's.
At this, we'll, call the meeting back to the 8:30. And move to. We're gonna. We're gonna.
He's not back yet.
We're ready.
We're sitting here just trying to FaceTime for just a minute.
We're ready.
Okay, where's your gavel, man?
It's way over there. So we're gonna call this meeting back to order at 8:37. We'll move on to F. Receive, consider, and act on a resolution prohibiting the carrying of firearms with any meeting that is subject to the Open Meetings Act.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll take this one. Hopefully with the help of the city attorney in case there's questions you're asked. So staff was asked by council to look at security measures for city council meetings. And this is one of those possible safety measures that the council can consider if you want to prohibit firearms from any meeting that's subject to the Open Meeting Act. So right now, we're talking about city council meetings as well as any board or commission meetings, like planning and zoning is the only other commission we have right now. But in the future, if we create other boards or commissions as the city grows, then those also are subject to the Open Meetings Act. So those would also qualify as one of these types of meetings. We do have a municipal court, and a municipal court has the authority to go ahead and issue any kind of written procedure for them to prohibit the weapons in the municipal court, which is state law. And so one of the things that we're doing right now, working with the municipal judge, is we're getting those procedures codified. We are in the process of purchasing the required verbiage or signage, as well as we're putting up, or we're going to be purchasing some metal detectors so that we can use all that for municipal court. And we're trying to get some bailiffs, some Wise County deputies that we can contract to be the bailiffs for our municipal court. In fact, we just had a municipal court earlier today before the council meeting started. So we're taking these safety precautions or these measures already from municipal court. So really the question is, does the council want to pass a resolution and have this as one of your safety measures by prohibiting firearms at these meetings? And you are allowed under the law to go ahead and prohibit firearms from these meetings if we do the proper notices and posting, which, as I told you, we're already getting ready to do that for municipal court. So the same signs that we're getting ready to purchase for municipal court will be the ones that we will use for any meeting subject to open meetings. So it's at your discretion if you want to do it or you don't want to do it. But this is just one of these safety measures that I'm bringing to you for your consideration. And so with that, I stand for your questions.
Questions?
Yeah, there is no need for signs. It's a law that you cannot carry in a courtroom. And I think we should abide by the law, and it is permitted to carry in the Open Meeting Act. And I don't know why we would want to change that law.
I don't agree with.
I agree.
I agree with Harvey.
I think, I originally brought this up about wanting to have security in here, but my point of it, I want to know who's gonna shoot first of us. I wanted us to have, the quorum of, or contingency plan of how the council is going to respond to a threat. And I don't think that, having a metal detector will stop people that shoot their way back in. You know, they go out to the truck, get their gun, shoot their way back in. And now they know no one has guns in here because we all went through the metal detector. And I think that'd be sitting ducks, so I think that's the way we should do it.
I do not believe in gun-free zones. The missing court, yes,
It did work well.
yeah, it doesn't work.
It doesn't work.
In my opinion, yes, I think we need to proceed with our municipal court. I know most, you go to Wise County or Dixie County, they have a sign there, just as a reminder.
State law is that
You cannot.
yeah, you cannot carry inside of any court. Right. Now, you used to until it came out with the open carry. Good if you were licensed to carry. You went to the Texas Department of Public Safety, get approved for that license. But with the open carry, all you do is go to the next when you buy a gun. So that was their deal with that. So I can't change that. But yeah, I do not think that we need gun control while we're in here. That's it. If we carry, we should be able to allow them to carry.
I agree with the signage for the court district.
Yes.
Okay, so this is Robin Cross. Let me butt in for a second here. So we have apples and oranges. The municipal court has the authority to control and make rules for their court. They are a state court. They're a creature of the state. Every city has one in the state, and they are entitled to make their own rules as far as courtroom procedure and decorum and the like. And no signage is required for that.
That's correct.
The signage is required. So the decision before you tonight is not for the municipal court. There is a state law that allows the council to declare part of the building in which a municipal court or any court, in this case, your municipal court, is housed, to make the building off limits for concealed or open carry, I believe. However, there is a lot of pushback on that, and the cases are inconsistent. The AG's enforcement of the statute is inconsistent, and that is not my recommendation. The resolution that you have before you is not for the municipal court, doesn't involve employees. It is only for whether or not you want to permit or prohibit open or concealed carry during your meetings. And for that, signage would be required. Metal detectors are not required. There are lots of municipalities and political subdivisions that just have signage, but they don't have any metal detectors. So the item that's in front of you is solely for whether or not you want to permit concealed or open, or prohibit concealed or open carry during your meetings, and that's a council decision. It's a policy decision.
Thank you.
So,
Make a comment. Yeah, I'll make one comment before, we hopefully do what I want to do here, but, so I would like to direct staff to, and I'll put pressure on John, since he's an ex-police officer, to come with a contingency plan for us as a council on handle a situation like that.
okay.
Active shooter or whatever.
Keep that.
Good.
That's the contingency plan. So do we need to make a motion to deny this? So I'll make a motion that we deny.
No action. No.
You can if you want to, but you don't have to take any action. You can just Move on to the next item.
Okay,
It's up to you.
well,
So then why would we not deny the rest, like, why would we not deny it? Why?
No, there's no reason. I mean, all I'm saying is, it takes the same effect. You can go ahead and vote to deny it, or you can just move on.
Got it, cool, yeah.
Either way,
well, that's,
it takes the same. There is no resolution, nothing happens.
Gotcha.
I think procedurally, it would be better if they voted it up or down, or
Okay.
tabled it, and then it doesn't come back, whatever.
A resolution prohibiting the carrying of firearms within any meeting that is subject to the Open Meetings Act.
Second.
With the posters.
Yeah, wait, remember you said deny. So if you vote, yes, you're agreeing that we're gonna deny.
Correct, that is correct.
yes, all those in favor of.
Wait, I'm sorry, did you get a second?
Yes, we.
Yes, Marie.
Okay.
So all those in favor of denying this resolution, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right.
Are we done?
Yeah,
Oh,
well, we-
No?
we have a motion in a second.
What? So we can make a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion.
Executive session.
We have
No.
nothing.
Now,
Let's discuss.
we adjourn.
I second motion. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
8:47, you guys have record time, I was expecting to take a little longer.
Me
Good
too.
job.
So the 19th. maybe.
Put Valley on time.
Nice.
Oh, no. Are you going to bed? Yeah, you're going to bed. You staying at your mommy's house tonight? Oh, I'm taking you to school tomorrow.
Thank you, Jimmy. Have a good night.
You too. Yeah. I'm headed to Taos in the morning.
Towels?
Yeah.
Find money to do.
Where are you going to get the towels? Albuquerque?
Santa Fe.
Santa Fe.